Okay, in this video there are a couple of topics I wanted to talk, that is something called map and reduce functions. Okay, so these are a couple of very important and useful functions, map and reduce. Okay, and there is also something called list comprehension. Okay, maybe this is something interesting for some of you if you are trying to use some good techniques which is simple, easy to read and more efficient, okay, in Python. So those are the things we are going to explore in this video, right? So here the very first thing, I think I have just given a brief idea about how map function can be used. So as I gave a simple example of lambda function, if we are trying to square the square the elements of a list, let's say, right? So let's say 3 2 3 5 9 2 4 and so on, right? So suppose this is what I want to achieve, right? So you can apply a map function and look, we have already the square function defined, right? And that's why it worked earlier. Let's say suppose I have this, it returns a square function. It returns a square of the number which is passed. Okay, now this map object, right, if you look at the help page, okay, map is a function, okay, which takes first argument as a function. Okay, and we have discussed in the function how to pass an argument as a function, or how to return a function as an argument, right? So we can pass a function as an argument and return as a variable as well, right? So this particular map function is used to map the functionality for each element of an iterable object, right? The other element, that is the second argument in the map function, is a iterable object. Okay, and it returns the iterable object itself, right? That means it returns something called a generator object. Suppose if I store this into m, and now if I try to print m, I can't see anything, but yes, I can see when I use a next function on this particular object. So every time I do next, I get one new value from the from this particular iterable object. Okay, so we are getting the outcome which is stored into m, and this m is a generator object where it will be printed as and when you want to print something that is of type map. Okay, so I repeat, so instead of line number 171 and 173, we can also write the simple one to read, to have a better readability. So x and x to the power 2. So this also does the same thing. Now if I want to get all the numbers from this map object, so I have to run the loop over this. For example, I want to pull I will use I as a variable name in m, so it will give me all the numbers which is there in the map object, that is m. Okay, map works on a concept called generator. So m is a generator object on which we can iterate and get the values which is there inside m. Okay, so it is more memory efficient, more performance efficient. So that's why sometimes the map functionality is very much useful, because it automatically, you don't have to write a loop. Okay, so it automatically iterates over this particular iterable object. In this case, it is a list, and it will give a generator object in which you get the squared numbers out of this this list here, right? So now we will use, instead of list, if I use tuple, so this also should work. The reason is it works on a iterable. So here it can be anything, right? Any iterable object. So that's how, and that's how it is so simple. So the another quick usage could be, let's say, map, and I want to apply integer functionality on the data which I receive, probably, let's say, okay, so let's say I have this data, okay, or maybe I don't have to use double quote, it's okay, single also fine. Yeah, I just put all the numbers into the single quote, and that makes this numeric strings, right? Suppose I receive a data. Let's say you are reading a file, and if you read a file, and if there is a comma separated values available in your text file, so once Python you are reading it into Python, so Python will read them as a string. Okay, so though they are the numeric numbers, but numeric strings, we have to quickly map for those data and try to print here as a integer numbers, right? So that is how map can be used. So this is very useful function, very efficient, and whenever you find such scenario, better go and use for map, right? We will be using as and when we need to use somewhere going forward, but for now, this couple of examples, I hope this makes you clear how map function use, and how iterable object, that is the second argument, each element of that iterable object would be working with the function, that is the first argument, and this functionality is applied on each element of the iterable object. Okay, so another function is called reduce, and this reduce is present into the library called functools. Okay, let me see if it, yeah, functools. So if you import functools, let me check if it works. Yeah, I think, yeah, functools dot reduce. Okay, so reduce is another functionality, similar function, okay, which we can use to, let's say, I want to apply some functionality here. So it also works on on the similar fashion, okay, but it works little slightly different. Okay, x plus y, and here suppose I give, okay, these are the values. Okay, the moment we do, how this works is it reduces your output to a single number after applying this particular functionality that is written in lambda function here, and this functionality will be working on two elements from this iterable object at a given point of time. So very first time it will pick two numbers, two elements of this list, and then it applies a function, and the moment we apply the function, functionality returns a one number here, right? So that is addition of these two values, correct? So once you receive that x plus y, so you got another result, and that is the number. So that number will be taken as one, first number, and the second will be taken as the 6 now. Okay, again there one number will be generated, that will be treated as the first number, and the second will be 87, and so on and so forth till the time your list exhausts, right? So that's how it is used to reduce your numbers from whatever list you have, whatever iterable object you have, to a single number. Okay, and this reduction happens based on the functionality what we write here. So we may want to write some other function, for example functools dot reduce, and here if I write, let's say, lambda a comma b, and I want to print a if let's say a is greater than b, else I want to print b. Okay, so for this also the functionality will be applied here. Let me just type it and look what output it gives. Okay, sorry, a is not defined, it is, sorry, it is a comma b actually, yeah. So 87. So that's how simply it works. So every time the two values are taken, 2 and 4, so 2 and 4, it will be compared whether if 2 is greater, then 2 is written, otherwise 4 is written. Obviously 4 is written here, right? So 4 and then 4 and 6 will be worked similar fashion, and ultimately 87 is the maximum number what we get out of the iterable object, that is list, right? So this is how the map and reduce function works. Okay, hope this example is clear. I will be sharing this notebook, so please practice, and if you type once, you'll get this clearly understandable, right? So these are quite useful functions, and yet it is simple one, right? Simple but very powerful, very useful functions to do your important task when you really work with the data, especially when you are reading some files and mapping or performing some operations on the data. Okay, so there is something called a list comprehension. Okay, so list comprehension is a technique, okay, used for it is like a generator technique. It works on a concept called generator, and this makes your program more sophisticated, more efficient in terms of memory and processing. Okay, so list comprehension is used to create a list, okay, based on a on some generator concepts, right? Suppose I want to create a list here, right? So suppose for x and in range of 10. So this is the simplest way one can generate, right? So however, this is not the only way. So we have already seen much better or simpler ways, in fact, right? So this also gives you a simple way of generating the list, and not only that, you can again append or use the values here using append, and you can run the for loop here. Okay, so this also gives you a list. Okay, so what is the difference then, right? There are so many ways we are trying to do. So this is obviously a little complex, doesn't make sense when I can do this in a single line, either this or this one, right? So for this particular quick generation of a list, yeah, 189 line number could be the better option, obviously, but this list comprehension is the technique which we can also use to generate the list instead of running a traditional for loop and working on creating a list. For example, I will take another example. Let's say we had a list here. Earlier we took an example, I think Akash and Alexander, John, then Murlidhar, Ajay, Sam. Okay. Okay, suppose these are the numbers, these are the names, right? And now I want to get all the names whose length is greater than 5, suppose. Okay, what is the option we did earlier? For name in list, and if length of name is greater than 5, I am trying to put into long names dot append the name. Okay, so obviously I need to have a long names and long names as a list here, so that finally I get a long names list. Okay, so this is one of the way, right? I understand this is quite a complicated way, in fact, because those who have some understanding of list comprehension, those might have thought about this. But now let's try and understand if I can apply the same logic into a list comprehension. Now, because the final output is list, right? So that's why we can think about creating a list comprehension here. So we have to just start typing the list symbol here, right? So the square bracket, and what we want to print is something we have to write the first. Okay, we are printing name, and where from where the name is coming, for name in LST, and when we are printing if length of name is greater than 5. So that's all, guys. So simple. So easiest way one can think about, instead of having your check condition, then the for loop, and then creating a list, empty list, then appending to it, and then printing. So you don't have to do all of this. Okay, you have a list, you can generate another list based on this one condition and a loop, right? This is easy to read. It is like a English language, one can easily read and understand, right? Just that whatever you want to put, you have to type first, and then you go on and run a loop and then check a condition. So remember this, the part of the statement here has to be a single expression. Okay, we can't have so many of loops and complex things there. Okay, so yeah, that's how we can use. So let me read, let me take you through, if I have some example here for the list comprehension. I think there is one, if I find. Okay, otherwise, yeah, I have the comprehension technique. It is more readable, faster than the standard loops. Okay, understand this. Okay, this is a very important point. It is a simple, quite easy to learn, easy to understand, more readable, and faster than the standard loops. Okay, because it is faster because it works on a concept called generator, because it generates on demand the values, right? So list comprehension is a compact way of mapping a list into another list, and where we can apply some function to each of the elements of the list. Okay, So similarly, we have dictionary comprehension and set comprehension techniques. But yes, remember there is no tuple comprehension as such. Okay, so list comprehension and dictionary comprehension and set comprehension, list and dictionary comprehensions are much useful and popularly used in so many programs if you if you come across. Okay, so we will try and understand how we can write a dictionary comprehension as well. So is this clear? I hope you understand this, where how to write a particular expression, that is a single expression, into a list symbols, and you will find a list. You are actually generating a list based on whatever iteration you are running on and some condition you have added. You can use 2 loops, 3 loops, but you have to make sure that it is a single expression you are forming. Okay, so for that matter, you can also generate some square or cube of the numbers for x in a range of 10. Okay, if x is divisible by 3 maybe, right, or 2 maybe. Okay, so such conditions you can apply, right? So you are taking all the values and yeah, just hold on, let me take the